Your room sounds bad, lousy, terrible. Come on, admit it. Unless you're one of the 1% who have proper professionally designed acoustic treatment, or maybe make that 0.1%. So, as a probable member of the 99.9% club, don't put up with it. Fix it. But first, what are your problems? Well, firstly, your speakers are too small. If they're any smaller than my B&W 801s, they're too small. Solution? You need a subwoofer, to give you all of those lovely low frequencies that you're missing. Secondly, well, your speakers again. What frequency response they do have is way, way from flat. That's the nature of speakers for you. Thirdly, getting depressing now, your room is chock full of standing waves, wall to wall, ceiling to floor, second order, third order, tangential, oblique, absorption, different at different frequencies, probably less absorption at low, more at high. Your room itself has a frequency response, and it's bad. So what do you need to fix all of this? An IK Multimedia iLoud subwoofer. Let's unbox one. You're getting two things in the iLoud sub. You're missing low frequencies and room correction. So this is way more than just a common or garden subwoofer. But let's look at the subby side first. There's a lot of theory and practice to subs, and I'd probably have to dedicate a whole video or video series to that. But let's assume that you just want more bass, and let's keep it simple. The problem you need to solve is that your smallish speakers don't have enough bass in themselves, both in terms of low frequency extension and low frequency level. Oddly enough, the human ear can adapt to this quite well, and it's true that the sound from small speakers can be perfectly, almost perfectly, enjoyable. As an illustration, suppose you're listening to a bass guitar or a double bass. Your speakers go down to around 100 Hz, and there's nothing much below that. But the lowest note of a standard bass guitar or double bass is 41 Hz. You can't hear it. Maybe you can hear the second harmonic at 82 Hz. But you don't hear 82 Hz as the octave above the lowest note. Your ears and brain recognize the harmonic series, and you hear, or think you hear, that low open E. Fabulous. But there's no doubt that a fuller frequency range will give you those low notes as they were meant to be heard. And why wouldn't we want that? Now there's a problem. Your sub needs to fill in precisely the frequency range that your main speakers lack. So there has to be a crossover frequency where the sub will take over. No problem. Typically you'll send line level signal to the sub's crossover will send bass to its internal amp and higher frequencies to line outputs going to your power amp or active main speakers. You'll set the crossover frequency with, you guessed it, a crossover frequency control. Problem solved. Fine, but problem number 2. Your main speakers might be closed box, which drop off at 12 dB per octave towards the low end, or reflex, which will be 24. I'd say either try hard not to worry about this, or check out thoroughly the specifications and facilities of the sub you're interested in. Are we having fun yet? Let's move on to how the iLoud sub will fix this for you, and in fact fix all of your frequency response issues, including your main speakers and your room. The iLoud sub does room correction, in fact speaker and room correction, so it's fixing 3 things: your speakers, dovetailing between your mains and the sub, and your terrible, terrible room acoustics. Now, a caveat. I'm saying room correction as a kind of placeholder term because it's commonly used and understood, or misunderstood. It should be room amelioration, because the only way you can truly attempt to fix acoustic problems is with acoustic treatment, physical acoustic treatment. But correcting a room in software can make things a whole lot better than they were. A whole lot better. I've been running room correction for several months in my video studio, and I haven't once been tempted to switch it off. Yes, I know I should get better acoustic treatment, but money, time, hard sweaty labour, procrastination. So yes, the iLoud sub does room correction. But let's take a closer look at it first. It's funny really. One would, I think, expect a sub to be big. I mean, small speakers have less bass, big speakers have more. But the laws of physics don't seem to apply to subs, which I'm sure will be the topic of a video sometime soon. Anyway, it's compact. The single drive unit is on the front, and an auxiliary bass radiator on each side, ABR for short. The purpose of an ABR is to create a reflex speaker without the port. As I'm sure you know, and maybe have experienced, ports can have issues, the easiest of which to hear is chuffing. That's probably one of the best examples of onomatopoeia that they never taught me at grammar school. Now on the back, inputs and outputs, balanced and unbalanced. So you'll take the line outputs of your source, which were previously connected to your power amp or active speakers, and connect them to the sub. The outputs of the sub now go to your power amp or active speakers. Off you go to Amazon to buy the extra 2 cables you'll need. This is so the iLoud sub can handle crossover, or of course the ARC-X room correction, which I'll come on to later. There's a volume control that I'll choose to leave on 0 dB for now, and a USB port to connect your computer. Important! I can't overstate this. You use your computer to set up the iLoud sub. You don't need it at any time after that. Not unless you change your main speakers or anything significant about the room, like a new sofa maybe, or you somehow acquire a spouse who shares your passion for listening. Come on, is that going to happen? There's also a button to activate Bluetooth. I'm sure I'll be able to pair it with something, but I'm hoping that future revisions of the manual will tell me how to use it. For me, I don't think I'll need it. I think it's time to move on to room correction. If you skipped forward and you didn't hear me comment on room correction earlier, you need to skip back because I'm not going to say it again and you'll be setting yourself up to fail if you don't understand this issue. What I'm going to do is connect the iLoud sub to my system, my computer, the measurement microphone that you saw in the unboxing, and run the ARC-X software that sets it all up. It is a bit of a process, but as I said, you only have to do it once and the settings are stored in the sub itself. Oh, you're going to need some stuff, so off you go to Amazon again. An audio interface to get signal from the measurement microphone into your computer, an XLR cable to connect the mic, and if you're taking things seriously, a mic stand. You can bodge the stand though, just something to hold the mic and not affect the acoustics too much. But you may have all these things already. If you don't, honestly, you're going to miss out on the room correction experience. And as I said, I'm already a fan. I want to go through this quickly. It takes around half an hour in real life, but you'll want to be careful not to make any mistakes. So, stepwise, you'll put the sub where you want it and set up the measurement microphone at ear height. Then you'll take a series of measurements, 7 at ear height, 7 15 centimeters above, 7 15 centimeters below. 21 measurements. You can take fewer measurements if you want, but why wouldn't you want to do the whole thing? This is what it looks like in my room. As you can see, I'm using my Yamaha NS10M Studio loudspeakers, and the sub is under my desk. Why so far to the left? Well, 1, theory has said for a long time that as humans we don't localize low frequencies too well, so position doesn't matter. 2, IK's software shows that it's okay. And 3, I hate having anything in front of me that my feet will brush up against. If I had more space, I'd put it centre. The software will guide you through this, and all you have to do is make sure the microphone is in the right place for each test. This is what you'll hear 21 times, actually recorded with the measurement microphone through my speakers and sub. And this is what you get at the end of the process. You might want to pause to take in these screenshots fully. So here we have the full system response, before in blue, corrected in orange. Or is it terracotta? It's flattened out the response a lot. I'm a bit puzzled where the dip around 90 Hz comes from, but that's acoustics for you. Anyway, the corrected response is much flatter than the original. My suspicion is that the slope issue that I mentioned earlier is corrected in this. We can look at the left speaker, the right speaker, and the sub. Don't forget you can pause. Now, is this the end product? Your sub aligned, speakers corrected, room corrected? Well, I found no. This was a bit of a puzzle at first. I heard an odd stereo effect that disappeared when I switched in the bypass. Several head scratchings later, I played John Coltrane's Blue Train in its mono version. It's a great mono mix and a very useful test track. Bypass in, pure rock center mono between my Yamahas. Bypass out, a strange kind of stereo from this blatantly mono recording. The issue, ArcX had chosen to put a 0.7 millisecond delay in my left speaker. That would correspond to the distance from my speakers to the measurement mic being 10 inches, 25 centimeters different. No way. So I zeroed that and perfection. Perfect mono. Encouraged by this, I also set the gains of the front speakers to the same at 2.5 dB rather than 1.8 and 3.1. Even better. And after listening to a shed load of tracks, I think I prefer the sub at -10 rather than -4.9. Sometimes human preferences can and should override computer accuracy. There's more to the tweakings than I've covered, but these are the points that are most important to me. Well, there's a lot more bass. And from what I said a moment ago, I found my preference was to turn it down. The sweet spot for me, I think, is where I can just hear a difference. No, wow, there's a sub. Just bass that seems natural. For me, I wouldn't want it any other way. Now, I did anticipate an issue. The iLoud sub is a reflex speaker, not a closed box. As we know from speaker theory, a reflex gives more bass, but at the expense of more resonance. In theory. I nailed my colours to the mast some time ago, and I can confirm that I'm a closed box guy. Not that I disrespect anyone else's opinion, of course. But it's bound to cross the mind of any thinking person that maybe the iLoud sub will sound a bit reflexy. Plainly, I'm biased, so if I say yes, I do find the sound a bit reflexy, well, many of my viewers might see that as a good thing. For me, of course, there are two aspects to audio. One is listening, the other is production. If I can grace my musical doodles with such a term. Well, I've had a good listen. Grok was good enough to give me a playlist of tracks that are generally well regarded for their audio quality. And, I've enjoyed listening to them. I've switched the correction in and out very many times, and the enjoyment factor, for me, is definitely better with the room correction switched in. For production, I could say that what I want is to hear the sound that's on the tape, the metaphorical tape. But my feeling over the years is that, given a decent system, I should tune in my ears by listening carefully and often to tracks I admire. Then hopefully my work should have, or at least aspire to have, similar characteristics. With the bass from the sub not overemphasized, I feel that I could be in a better position than with the Yamahas and room correction alone, no sub. Time will tell on that though, if and when I start on yet another album of irritating unboxing music. I mentioned the Arc Studio that I reviewed a while ago. I liked it straight away, and I've been using it ever since. So much so that I'm thinking of actually buying, with my own money, another one for my other system, again with Yamaha NS10M Studio monitors. So that's a definite yes. The iLoud sub, well, it's a sub. With any sub, there's going to be a question of integration with the main speakers. Placement is an issue for acoustic reasons and for reasons of practicality, but I can probably live with an off-centre positioning. Many of my viewers wouldn't have to. It's a reflex sub, and I've said my piece on that. But I don't have a closed box sub to compare it with. If any manufacturer would like to send me one, I'll certainly consider it for review and possibly make a further video with my comparisons. But as I said previously, the reflex sound is popular with many. So yes, I think it's definitely buyable as a personal opinion. But I guess I'm lucky I don't have to. I'll keep an open mind though, until if and when I can compare it with a closed box sub. As always, I strongly recommend that you take in a range of reviews and get a demonstration if you can. The iLoud sub was sent to me, but other than that and any affiliate links, there's no payment or influence involved. So I can say what I like, and I've said it. See you soon.